Why do Finnish and Hungarian belong to the same language group, despite their countries being over 1,500 kilometers apart? The story behind the Finnish and Hungarian languages goes back to roughly 6,000 years ago, near the Ural Mountains, whose small population spoke what is known as Proto-Uralic. Much of what is known about this time period is theory, and it isn't certain what actually occurred. We're simply aware of the fact that, long ago, Proto-Uralic originated somewhere around the Urals, though it's disputed where specifically. Some suggest to the west, east, or southeast, with some speculating even further, such as western, eastern, or central Siberia, spreading through the Sima-Turbino route. However, the consensus remains that the language's homeland was around the Urals. Roughly 4,000 years ago, the speakers of Proto-Uralic began to divide and migrate east and west. This period is when the language was traditionally believed to have evolved into two main branches based on linguistic reconstruction, Proto-Finno-Ugric to the west and Proto-Samoyedic to the east. However, experts have questioned these groupings, arguing that there was no clear split between the two main branches. Instead, Proto-Uralic may have diversified into multiple second-order languages like Sami, Permic, Samoyedic, Finnic, Ugric, including Hungarian and others. Regardless, 3,000 years ago, either Proto-Uralic or Proto-Finno-Ugric speakers moved northwest and arrived in modern Finland, developing Proto-Finnic dialects. These dialects saw notable differences with their counterparts in neighboring areas, explaining the modern discrepancies between Finnish and Estonian. Proto-Finnic continued to develop and became more prominent due to geographic isolation over the course of several centuries, all while tribes grew larger and Christianity was introduced in the region. By the 13th century, early Finnish was widely spoken by the local population, even after the Swedish conquest. Although Swedish, German, and Latin were spoken by the administration, merchants, and churches, Finnish remained in common language. Finnish was eventually standardized in the 16th century by Bishop Mikael Agricola based on its Uralic core alongside Swedish, German, and Latin elements, which was held by Elias Lönnrot. The modern version of Finnish was solidified during the 19th century. But what about Hungarian? How did a language in the same family end up so far away? During the same migration of Proto-Uralic speakers to the west, Proto-Hungarian split from its closest relatives in the Urals, another proposed branch of Uralic languages known as Ob-Ugric. It adopted features such as certain vocabulary and sounds with other Uralic languages that move west, notably the Permics found in modern Russia, with no other Uralic languages sharing such aspects. For centuries afterwards, Proto-Hungarian speakers traveled through Eastern Europe, changing lifestyles from hunter-gatherers to nomadic cattle farmers before moving south near the Black Sea, ruled by the Hunnic tribe after the fall of Attila's empire. However, the connection between the Proto-Hungarians and Huns is debated, and it's unclear to what extent the two groups interacted, or if they even did at all. Supposedly, by the 6th century the Huns had fallen, and the Proto-Hungarians were under the rule of the Go-Turks of the First Turkic Empire. For 2 centuries, Proto-Hungarian speakers, who began to call themselves Magyars, slowly moved west through the modern northern Caucasus in Ukraine, before crossing the Carpathian Mountains in 895 into the Carpathian Basin, the area of modern Hungary. Old Hungarian spread among the Magyar population for centuries as the Kingdom of Hungary grew, though this was slowed down by the Ottoman annexations and the making of Latin as the official state language by King Saint Stephen I after the country became Christian. During this time, what would become Hungarian developed many new words, borrowed from neighboring speakers of Slavic, German, Latin, Turkish, and even French and Italian languages later on. Old Hungarian came to an end in the 16th century, followed by Middle Hungarian developing its modern vowel system. Modern Hungarian came afterwards in the 18th century, which modified existing words and standardized the language. Therefore, Finnish and Hungarian are in the same language group for a simple reason: they share a similar point of origin. However, the two languages are not mutually intelligible in the same way that Spanish and Italian are, and despite their similar categorizations, are actually quite different. This is, after all, a reflection of their history. Unlike Latin, which fell out of use in many places by the fall of Rome 1500 years ago, the split between the Finnic and Ugric branches of Uralic happened over 4,000 years ago. Finnic languages, notably Finnish, were influenced by its western migration as well as German from traders, Latin from Christians, and Swedish from Sweden's occupation. On the other hand, Ugric languages, notably Hungarian, was influenced by Permic peoples, followed by a journey southwest which gave it Turkish, Slavic, German, and Latin aspects. The languages simply share many features, such as both lacking grammatical genders, having a high amount of grammatical cases, distinguishing vowel lengths, a small number of similar words, and have both adopted features from nearby languages. Hungarian has roughly 20 to 55% of its words of Uralic origin, while Finnish, having traveled less and resisted outside pressures, has kept more of its Uralic roots, with about half of its words not borrowed from any other language group. Despite their vast distance and very different journeys, Finnish and Hungarian represent two of the major languages of the Uralic family with an ancient connection, even if we do not fully understand it.